Welcome to Where There's a Wills.
There's a play.
I'm Ian, your mid-complexity casual gamer.
I'm Stacey. I am your non-gamer gamer.
And we're here to give our initial impressions after two plays of a game we just got to the table yesterday and today. The reason we got this game to the table was because it appeared last week on Dice Tower's Winter Spectacular on 3 of the top 10 lists that they did. So I was like, okay, this game is showing up. We got this one sitting on our shelf for a couple months since it arrived. I think we need to get this game to the table. And that game is Survival of the Fattest, which is brought to us by Dirty Rascal Games. Lee Smith is the designer and artist. It plays 1 to 4 players in about 45 to 90 minutes, which is the numbers from Board Game Geek, not on the box. And I think this time frame is probably a little more realistic than I think it says up to 60 minutes. It took us well, yesterday it took us quite a long time because we really did stumble through it, and it wasn't until about the third season of 3 seasons that we really kind of understood what we were doing and went, oh, okay, this makes a lot more sense now. But yeah, so let's get to our initial impressions, starting with the components and the artwork.
Okay, I am going to start us off like I normally do with the instruction pamphlet / book. The rule book, yes. I found this to be extremely easy to follow. It's got everything that you need to know about the game. It's got the components listed. The talks about the stand-ups or the punch-out, depending on which version of the game that you have.
Yeah, we do have the Kickstarter Deluxe Edition, so we will be showing some components that are in the Deluxe version that are not in the standard version.
Correct. And it talks about the board setup, player setup, how to play the game. Comes with a glossary of words in case you're unfamiliar with some of the gaming lingo that comes along with this. The actions that you need to take, how to forage, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. One thing I did like about this particular playbook is that it gives very clear examples of what you need to do. It talks about well, if Sarah does this and Michael does this and this, and it just tells you exactly what you need to do to get that completed. Another thing I did like about this is the artwork. As many of my games, artwork does play into it for me on whether or not it's going to be a hit.
Starting with the cover there.
Yeah, the cover it's adorable. It's got Mr. Grizz on the front, with the 2 bunny rabbits, the otter, the raccoon, squirrel, I'm sorry, the blue jay, and Bucky the Buck. Are your characters that you're also going to be playing with. Even though this comes in a big fat box, I still think this is a daytime game. But we'll talk about that later as well. It also discusses some expansions that come with it that look like they're very easy. We haven't done those yet, but looks like those are very easy to come into.
Yeah, a couple of mini expansions that just add a couple little things.
Doesn't look like it complicates anything either.
No.
And then a solo mode also with
which
this.
I've not dove into that yet, but I am very interested to try that. It looks like it's gonna be fairly easy fairly easy to play. There's 3 different modes. There's 3 different levels of solo, so I do like that. 3 different guys, 3 different people you play against.
Yeah. So that is the instruction book. And then also with the you get your cards that come with it, and then your player pieces that we've discussed.
So the beautiful art on it.
Yes. The art, these are some of the things that you need for your recipes that you need to collect and possibly feed your animal. So those are all drawn out fantastic. The animals, oh my gosh, the animals in these are adorable. I was Audie the otter, and
that's hence the otter hoodie.
Oh yes, this is Lottie here.
And I was Bucky the Buck, which is why I'm wearing my Bucks t-shirt. So
yes,
yep, we're goofy like that. So
but the player pieces are adorable. Again, this is for the
this is for the deluxe Kickstarter edition.
game.
Yeah.
The
Just so you know,
punch outs.
I did do a full unboxing of this that showed off all of the deluxe Kickstarters. Otherwise, you have punch out standees, which have really nice artwork on them. So
You want me to grab those?
oh, you can grab them if you want.
Let me grab those. They're
Yeah.
just right here at the end.
Another one of the components for the deluxe edition is this really nice thick first player token. So I'm showing it up here like the camera up here is on. The camera up there is not on right now.
Nope.
So there's nice thick first player token. As I showed off a lot of this stuff early on.
Yeah.
So.
Here's the punchies.
Yeah. So there's the punch outs, which
little stand ups.
Some of those will be used for the solo mode because the solo mode does not have the solo characters don't have little miniatures, but these miniatures are really detailed. I mean, they are just beautifully done. So
if I knew how to paint, I would paint them.
Oh,
but
yeah.
that is not my.
If I knew how to paint these, I would totally try to paint them.
They're adorable.
But they're absolutely beautiful. All right.
So I think I covered up. Oh, and your token.
Your token that keeps track of your
season
and stuff.
And yeah.
I mean the artwork on the board just
very
simple, but you've got some different areas which we'll talk about when we go down the board. When we go down to the table, we'll show you the artwork on the board, and the player boards there's 4 different player boards that you can choose from, which we'll show you as well. So let's get down to the setup and gameplay. All right, and we are reset down at the table for survival of the fattest. Excuse me, I've been fighting a little throat thing lately. So, in survival of the fattest, you are playing as woodland creatures who are trying to forage for food and create these recipes here to get ready over 3 seasons to get ready for the following winter. You play over 3 seasons: spring, summer, and autumn, with a reset phase in between each where you can fulfill your reserved recipes. To set up the game, each person takes a player board right here. You take your critter deck. Your critter deck consists of 3 tricks, and then everybody gets 7 forage cards numbered 1 through 7. You shuffle that up. You put it face down on your critter deck. You put your critter card, which tells you your ability and what you need in order to feed them. Next, alongside it, you place your standee or your miniature or your standee on top of the stash section, and that is the setup for the player board. On the main board, you shuffle together these decks. They're all
one big giant deck.
Yeah, it's one big giant deck. It's food and traps, and you shuffle those together, and you evenly distribute them into 4 piles, and you put 4 of these out here. Before you do that, though, you take the market cards. You deal 2 to each player. Each player takes 1 and tucks it under here as a reserved recipe. And then they put the other 2 up here, or then you put your other one up here. Then, depending on how many people are playing, you fill the remaining empty spaces here, and then you deal these out so that you don't know what cards are here before you pick your recipe. And that is the setup. So this is it is a big box, and it's because of the deluxe starter edition and these beautiful miniatures that we have and stuff. But the setup for this game is really, really quick. Like, I was actually really surprised when we got it out how quick the setup was for this. As we're looking at this, before we get into the gameplay, you can see the beautiful artwork here. This is a very simple design here, but I really like this. You've got the different areas. You got Pebblebrook, you've got Greenvale, you got Pinecrest Ridge, and they each kind of have their own little area. Like, this has this nice little brook going through it. You got this nice green area. You got this ridge up in here. You got the trading post, and you got the marketplace. These 3 areas are what are called the foraging areas, which we'll get into in a little bit. And then the player boards are really nice as well. They're all designed a little differently. So I chose this one because I felt it went best with Bucky. There are 2 others, and I'm just going to grab those real quick just so you can see what they are.
There's the otter.
Well,
Forward?
it's the water one.
The water one.
And then you've got this one. And you've got this one, which probably goes best with old Grizz, the grizzly bear. And this one probably goes best with Honey and Buns. But there's more than 4 characters. So you choose which one. You don't have to choose one that goes good with it. You can choose whatever you want. So I gotta grab the rule book here just to make sure that I'm talking about everything correctly. One of the other nice things that it has is these player aids, which tells you quickly what all the locations are as well as the round sequence. So when you play, each person takes 5 cards out of their critter deck into their hand. So you take 5 cards, and then you determine who goes first. You do that by seeing who has the highest number forage cards. Everybody has numbers 1 through 7. So I have 5.
5.
She also has 5. Okay, so we both have 5. So then we go and we look at our next number. My next highest is 2.
2.
And then I've got 1.
1.
Okay, so we have the same numbers. If we didn't have the same numbers, then whoever has the highest number when they don't match goes first and gets this. If they do, and now we have not had this happen,
Then
so I have to. I think
goes.
then what it does, and I want to pull this up, is there's a critter size guide that I want to show you. So it shows you the sizes of the critters. That determines order. We never had that happen.
Nope.
Of course it happened right now. So I do like that. Is like, okay, whichever one's the largest goes first. That makes a lot of sense. They're the biggest. Okay, so once you determine who goes first, you have some different phases. You have the action phase. In the action phase, you can recycle cards. You can recycle 2 cards that you don't necessarily want, and you can take 1 into your hand for this turn. So, like, for me, I might not want that 1 in my hand. This trick, this natural selection trick, isn't good in the first round. So it's not really a good card to have right now. So I don't mind discarding it if I want to try and get something else. Then what you do is you play your tricks. Then you visit a location. So in the different locations, you are doing different things. If you go to the trading post, you can either swap a card here with a food card in your hand or a card in your hand, or you can randomly collect 1 card and put it in your discard pile. If you go to the market, you get to either reserve one of these up in above your board, which can be completed later in the reset phase, or if you want to complete one because you have those cards in your hand, then you get to tuck it underneath your board, which we can't really. Oh, you can see it over here. So there's a spot in here to tuck underneath, and then you get a bonus. Some of them are ongoing bonuses, some of them are immediate bonuses. So that's the trading post and the marketplace. The other 3 places are all foraging areas. So they all work in the foraging stage, they all work fairly the same, but when you go to them, they're a little bit different. If you go to Pinecrest Ridge, you get to stash one of your food cards face down. So if I have a food card here, okay, let's say I had this fish in my hand, I can stash this face down. Talk about a little bit why you want to stash your food. And then you wait to forage. If you go to Greenvale, you get to draw 2 cards from your critter deck into your hand, which could help you later on. Then you wait to forage. And if you go to Pebblebrook, you get to reveal the top 3 cards to everybody and then place them in whatever order you want to place them in, and then wait for the forage stage. So that is the action stage. You recycle, you play tricks, you visit a location. Oop, I'm missing a location. The stash. The one that I always forget. The last location is actually on your player board. So if you've got a bunch of food cards in your hand, you can go to your stash spot. And only you can visit that one on your board. Okay, that's important because you can never go to the same spot 2 turns in a row unless you have an ability that allows you to do it. So the 6th spot is the stash spot, and that allows you to stash food cards onto your stash spot on your player board. So there is the action phase. The foraging phase, then, you play forage cards. So if I've got here, grab your cards. Okay, so let's say that we are here. Grab your standee. Let's say we're both just here. Okay. And I'm gonna play some forage cards, and Stacy's gonna play some forage cards that were in her hand. So we're each gonna play 3 forage cards. Okay. So what we do is once again we determine order, which would be Bucky in this case. You reveal however many forage cards. You reveal however many cards were played. So if one of us only played 2, then the other person has priority because they played more. But if we both play 3, we're going to reveal 6 of these cards face up. And then in order, in priority order, we would then we would forage a card. So I know that in order to feed Bucky and be able to flip him over and get his bonus and be able to actually win the game, I need some leaf. So I'm going to take a leaf right away. Then Stacy would take a card.
And Lottie needs 2 fish and a raspberry.
Which isn't up there, but
isn't up there.
You do have a recipe card.
I've got my recipe card that needs a leaf, so I'm gonna take a leaf.
These go face up into your discard pile. Except for Bucky's ability is that so if Bucky is foraging alone, he gets to actually stash his stuff. So that's nice. But he's not foraging alone. So he discards it. And then we just go back and forth randomly here until we've each taken the number of cards that we forage. These go into our discard pile. And that's the end of the forage. Okay. If somebody played more forage cards than the others, they have automatic priority. If there's a trap, so let's see if there's a trap here. There's a trap card. So if there's a trap card, if you don't have the highest priority, you are required to take it. So even if we had 6 cards out here, and Stacy really needed that berry, if I had priority and I took an acorn, she would be required to take the trap on her first turn.
And the trap makes you lose points.
If the trap is stashed, it makes you lose points. If it's discarded, it doesn't do anything. But there's a good chance it could be stashed. So that is how you forage. And foraging is done the exact same at all 3 locations. So the foraging stage, you play your forage cards down, you determine priority, you reveal the cards off of that deck, and then you draft revealed cards. Pretty simple and straightforward. Then you move on to the discard and draw phase. Now, the foraging phase is not always going to take place. If I went to the trading post and Stacy went to the market, or one of us went to the stash, nobody's in the foraging areas, so nobody is going to forage at that point. Once the foraging stage is done, or there is no foraging in that turn, you go to the next stage, which is discard and draw. So you progress the round marker to the next spot, then you discard, and at this point you can discard down to nothing if you want. You cannot discard traps at this point though. So if you have any traps in your hand, you can't discard them. You can recycle them in that earlier phase, in the action phase. So, and then you just draw back up to your hand limit of 5. If you don't have enough left, you simply shuffle up your discard pile and you put them back in there, which is why you want to get a lot of food, because the food, if it gets into your hand, you can keep it so you can fulfill orders. There are 2 ways that you can fulfill orders. Like I said earlier, if you have the food in your hand and you go to the market. So let's see if I have. Do you have a berry over there?
Yeah, I've got a berry.
Okay.
Oh, no, I don't.
Nope.
There was a
berry somewhere. There was a berry somewhere.
I got a carrot.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, let's just say that on my turn. Yeah, we could have had all this set up, but this is more real. If I go to the market and I want to fulfill one of these, I have a leaf and a berry. So I can fulfill this. If I fulfill this now, I'm going to tuck this underneath my board and I'm going to get this bonus. So this says I may immediately stash 1 from the trading post. So this allows me to stash something from the trading post. And that's it. Now, if you don't have any space down here or up here, you can always discard something. Which, so this one is worth 3 points at the end of the game. I don't get the ability anymore. But if something comes up that might be worth more points, I might want to stash it because there's no end game ability. Or I might want to discard that, get rid of it, and there's no end game ability. So that is one way you can fulfill orders. The second way is after every 4 rounds, you go into a reset phase. So after you've done all of your phases, you're determining your turn order, your actions, your foraging, and your discard and draw, then you go into a reset phase. When you reset, and this is the one thing I wish there was, I do wish there was another player aid. Because this is two-sided, it has the locations on one side, and it has this round sequence. I really wish there was one just for the reset phase. Because otherwise, I feel like we are personally going to have this book open. So on the reset phase, you do a couple different things. You reset your deck. So you place your critter deck, anything that was in your hand, and anything on the discard card pile. You shuffle it, and you put it back on your critter deck. Then you spend your stash. So this is where you are fulfilling or the orders that are here. So if I've got a stash here, and let me set this up. Let me put something in here. Okay. So I return my guy to my stash. So I spend my stash. Okay, I've got a leaf here. I need a leaf for this recipe. So I can spend this leaf and put it there, and I've now fulfilled this recipe. This is worth 2 points at the end of the game. Then you reset your hand. You can also, this is also when you would fulfill your character. So in order to win the game, you have to first feed your character. So Bucky needs 2 leaves and an acorn. So let's say I had 2 leaves and an acorn in here, and I flip this over. He is now able to win the game because he has been fed. So he is now fed, and I can win the game. The first time I played this, I did not feed him till the very, very end. And so I had almost lost this without even trying. This last game, I fed him early on, which is nice because his bonus is really good. So they all have an ability, but they also have a bonus. So like Bucky's ability is when foraging alone, I can actually stash everything I reveal. So when I used him, I used that really well. Like I would grab extra cards and I'd have like 6 things and I would just be able to stash everything so that I had a lot of cards in my stash to be able to fulfill orders that were reserved. His bonus is at the start of the foraging phase, I can actually change my foraging location. So in a 2-player game, basically I can always be alone because he's also got a trick in here that says nobody else can go to a spot. So if I want to forage and get lots of stuff to forage, I can do that all by myself pretty much whenever I want. So that is fulfilling orders. Or sorry, that is the next part of the reset phase. So first you reset your deck, then you spend your stash to fulfill orders, then you reset your hand. So you draw back up to your hand limit, which is 5, unless there's a card that has bonuses. So some of them will say increase your hand limit by 1, increase your hand limit by 2. The last game I had a +1 and a +2, so I had a hand limit of 8, which was awesome because I could get lots of cards. Then you reset the market. So you're going to shuffle the market cards back together, give each person 2. They choose 1 to reserve, and you do it just like the beginning of the game. You put 1 here and 1. Each person puts the one that they didn't choose up here, and you fill it in. You shuffle all these cards together. You put them into 4 equal-ish piles. You put 4 out here in the trading post, and that is resetting the market. And then you reset the market, you reset the trading post and the foraging locations. And then you're ready for the new season. And the next season, you do the same thing for 4 rounds, and then you do another reset, same thing for 4 rounds, and then you finish. And that gets on to the scoring. The scoring in this game is very, very easy. First thing, you look at all of the recipes that you filled, that you completed. Your completed recipes that came from your reserved area. And there's points on them. So you just add those up. Then you look at your bonus recipes, which are the ones that you completed directly from here. Some of them are just points. Some of them have something like this, where this sashimi says market bonus, 1 point plus 1 point for each unspent fish in your stash when scoring. So when we played yesterday, Stacey had 3 unspent fish. So this card was worth 4 points. Because she got 1 point for every fish that she had not spent. And then if you have any traps in your stash, you lose 1 point for each. And then there's some other scoring for fast food. We haven't played with that, so we're not going to discuss that. That is the scoring. So it is a very simple scoring. For when you look at this game, it looks like it is going to be a giant game. And it really isn't. It is really pretty straightforward. All right. Let's move on to our. I guess I talked about the scoring. I thought that was part of the thing. Well, I talked about the scoring already. Thought that was part of the. I thought the scoring was part of. We changed some of this, so I didn't realize that scoring was separate. So I already talked about scoring, so we're just gonna move on to our final thoughts. All right. So like I said, we got this back in October. I did an initial impressions, or not. I did an unboxing video that I'll link, and then we've got a lot of games we need to get through, and this one just didn't get to the table. But when I saw that it was on 3 Dice Tower top 10 lists on their Winter Spectacular, I was like, okay, this game needs to be played before we talk about our games of 2024. You want to start? Or do you want me to start?
You can start.
Okay, I really like this game. I did think that this box size is pretty big. This is much thicker than your. This is your normal kind of size box, but this is pretty thick. So it does look like it's going to be a pretty intense, intimidating game for us at least, and it wasn't. Even though the first time we stumbled through it and it took us quite a while to play, I could see kind of the beauty in this game, and that it really was just a resource management game and kind of a worker placement with one worker, and you're just doing some different things at some different areas. So I really like this game. I like the abilities of the critters, so I'm gonna try some different critters later on. I like the fact that you can fulfill these 2 different ways, the market cards 2 different ways. That if they're in your hand, you can fulfill them directly from the market. Otherwise, you really have to plan out when you're stashing things. I kept on forgetting, like, even today when we played, I was like, wait, how do I stash? And then Stacy went to her stash position. I'm like, oh yeah, there's a stash position on our player board. So that 6th position is very important. But yeah, I really enjoyed this game. This was a very, I think as we play it more, I think it'll be a pretty quick game to play. It's I can't comment on the complexity level because last time I checked, there was only 2 ratings on it. So someone rated it a 2 and someone rated it a 3. I think 2.5, 2.5 is probably right. It's right in our wheelhouse.
It's right in my little stash of games. So, are you done?
Yeah. No,
okay.
Go for it.
So the first time we played this game yesterday, I thought, oh my lord, what did I get myself into? I hate this game. I'm never gonna play it again. But about halfway through, I started to come around. I started to had to use my little helper cards to help me get through it, and that's what they're there for, is to use them. So if you need the help, please use your helper cards. That will help tremendously. I enjoyed this game after today. Well, while we were playing it today, I really actually enjoyed it. I tried to get the recipes or the foods to feed my critter first, got that out of the way, and then is what I would do is I would once I got cards from my critter deck, I would hold all the as much food in there as I could. I wouldn't recycle any of my cards. I wouldn't put any of my cards away. I just tried to hold food in there so that I could just go back and stash them as frequently as I could, so I could get them out of my critter deck and into my stash so that I could make as many recipes as I could. So a little bit of strategy and a little bit of forethought will be going into this. You have to kind of think a step or 2 ahead, to be able to plan what you're going to be doing in the next.
Especially once you start using. Sorry, I jumped over you. So.
No, never mind.
Sorry.
I'm done.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I don't even know what I was saying now. But you do have to have a little bit of strategy so that you can plan a step or two ahead, which I am finally getting down. I can finally start kind of game playing that way so that I can plan ahead to get that get those in my hand to be able to stash and kind of get my own way of doing or playing this game under my hat.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is that thinking ahead really comes into play when you start looking at the abilities and the bonus
Mm-hmm.
abilities and your tricks that you can do. Because some of them you're like, okay, if I do this, then I do this. So there's some really nice cascading effects of things.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's not the proper term. I can't think of it right now. Where you're doing one thing and like you're chaining things together. Stacey had some really nice ones today where she really started using her abilities. Yesterday, I think we kept on forgetting to use our abilities. I
Yeah.
totally forgot my ability on Bucky. Otherwise, I definitely would have done much better in our first play. But yeah, you can start like chaining those abilities with the tricks and with things that you can do. Like, okay, Stacey, I will say when we played today, I complimented her numerous times that she had done some strategies and some things that she doesn't normally do. She definitely was thinking ahead and going, okay, I'm gonna play this, and she's like, oh, then I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna do this, and then I'm putting this here, and I'm like, okay. She like chained like a couple things. Like the way she did it, it was separate cards, so it wasn't like a domino. But the way they went together really was like, okay, if she did this, then this, then this, then this, it really did chain together to make it overall much more powerful. So
Mm-hmm.
I was really impressed with her gameplay day because that's not gameplay she is used to doing. So she's definitely kind of learning and understanding kind of how to like look at the cards and be like, oh, I do this and this. So that was
Yeah.
pretty impressive today.
So for me, this is a worker placement game, a deck building game, um, a
Resource management,
resource
really,
management game, kind of all wrapped into one.
but your resources are cards.
Yeah.
Instead of having the different foods, your resources are cards. But it is
Yeah.
a resource management.
So when we say the tricks of each critter has their own little deck of cards that you start with that has cards 1 through 7 for forage, and then it also has I think it's
Three tricks. Three tricks.
three tricks, and each critter has their own tricks that they can perform in the game, and you can play those during the trick stage, which is in the action stage, isn't it?
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
which is in the action stage. So those tricks can come in very handy um, because each player or each critter has their own tricks that they can perform. So you can play, like if you have all three in your hand, you can play all three of those tricks at once to help you get cards into your hand, which is, you can then recycle them and have them come back to you a little bit quicker if that's the gameplay that you want to do. But I do like this game. I look forward to playing it again with another character so that I can try and figure out which character I want to be long term.
Otter's her favorite character, so she started with the otter, but now she realizes, you know what, it'll be fun to play with some different characters because the different characters matter in this game because they have different abilities.
And their size matters. So
Yeah.
the name of the game is Survival of the Fattest, which means you have to feed your animal. You have to feed your critter. And just like in nature, unfortunately, the biggest animal kind of rules the forest down to the smaller animal. And so that's how kind of the nature guide in this takes place as well.
Which in this game, the largest animal
Grizz.
is gigantic. This is old Grizz. That is
And here's the
There's
otter.
Lottie, who is
Lottie the
the
otter.
like the middle, like the
Yep.
middle one. And then there's like yeah, there's ones that are even smaller. Like I said, you can check out the unboxing video to see all of the details. Um, yeah, I'm really excited to play some more and to try some more. So old Grizz, it talks about how he wakes. There's a nice little story at the beginning of the book, which I really like. Basically, he wakes up from the winter sleep and peers out and he sees all the animals doing all their stuff, and then he realizes, hey, I'm bigger than all of them. So pretty much he thinks he can just bully them all. So It'll be interesting to play as Old Grizz at some point, but I'm also interested to play as Honey and Honey and Buns, which are the rabbits, because there's 2 of them. So I think they can move to different areas. So that might be kind of intriguing to play. But yeah, like they said, this is we love this game. I can see why it was on all those Dice Tower top 10s as like surprise hits and surprise keepers. I think it was, and games that aren't getting talked about enough or something. I don't remember exactly what the 3 titles were, but when 3 different people from the Dice Tower are putting it on top 10 list at the end of the year, um, I really wanted to get to the table before we did our end of the year top or 2024 games list, because this one's really good. I enjoy this one a lot. This one's a keeper. Are we gonna play it?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Oh, you mean
are we gonna play it? It's on the table.
I've played it twice, so y'all will have to forgive me because I'm a slow player, but I can play it.
Okay, so Wednesday this week is Wednesday with the Willses. We've been trying to figure out what we were going to play. I think we're going to leave this on the table, and we are going to play Survival of the Fattest. So you can join us on Wednesday, and we are going to play Survival of the Fattest on Wednesday night.
At 5:30.
At 5:30 Mountain time. So yeah, I think that's all. Yeah. So 2 thumbs up for me. I really enjoy this one.
This one. I love the animals.
Yes, it's got animals. It's got an otter, so I mean,
can't go wrong with
go wrong with an otter. All right. If you've played this game, let us know what you think. And please like and subscribe. It would mean a whole lot to us. If you like this video and want to see more, please hit that subscribe button up above. And if you want to see the rest of our initial impressions videos, you can follow that link. Once again, this has been Where There's a Wills.
There's a play.
I'm Ian.
I'm Stacey.
And we'll see you next time.
At the table.